Hello, it's me, Malli Malpass, and this is Malcast. Welcome back to another Malcast. Today I'm joined by my good friend Ray Tamanous, and we are going to be discussing the Dredd films, 2012's Dredd with Karl Urban and 1995's Dredd, Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone. So you picked this movie, you picked Dredd, the 2012 Dredd,
Dredd
in particular. Why? Why that, of all the films you could have picked, why that film?
Do you know, I watched it the other day. It's one of those films I can watch it 100 times. I know exactly what's going to happen in it, but I think visually it's perfection. I think the whole sort of like dystopian kind of way it's shot. I love Karl Urban in it. It doesn't even need to be a Judge Dredd film. That's what I know what we talked about earlier. It could be any film.
Yeah.
But as an action film, it's just great. You know, I love the characters in it, and I don't know. I could just watch it on repeat. It wouldn't. I don't know. It's one of those films that really stands out for me. And I honestly don't know why. I'm not really a comic book film kind of guy. I liked sort of like the Christopher Nolan Batman. I couldn't tell you what's happening with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think they're great films, but I almost find the sort of the size of them on times, the spectacle is almost too much. You know, when you're watching like Superman like collapse buildings, I know that's DC, but I remember watching like Man of Steel for the first time, and there was so much destruction and chaos, like in Metropolis. I thought I just couldn't connect with it.
No, I get that.
Something about Dredd. I just thought, wow, this is.
Yeah, it's a lot smaller scale, isn't it? It was like the budget of that film was only 30 to 45 million, which comparatively, as we're going to be talking about the 1995 Dredd film, that film was 85 to 90 million. That film, so it almost doubled the budget.
And I think it relies on because of that as well. I know this, the special effects are great, but if you think of the core characters in it, it's not many.
No,
you've got Dredd, you've got Anderson. I don't remember the guy's name who they've got in handcuffs for like 90% of the film.
No, I never.
And then you got Mama, and then apart from that, the rest are just all kind of like. Yeah, they're not really, really stand-up characters.
Yeah, it's just background characters, isn't it? But I agree that visually it's a fantastic film because it's so bleak, isn't it? And like to give, if anyone hasn't seen Dredd or Judge Dredd or you aren't familiar with the source material, basically it's set in the not so distant future. Humanity is entirely wrecked the world, and everyone's moved. The entire populace has moved into mega cities. So it's wasteland in between these mega cities where millions upon millions upon millions of people live in these cities of huge disparity, with the poor at the very bottom and then the super rich at the very top. And it's policed by judges. So there's no like real process. There's not a court system. The judges are judge, jury, and executioner. And they do it all like on the job, and Judge Dredd is the baddest of the bad judges, and so basically what the 2012 film does is it sort of encapsulates a real it's like Zack Snyder directed it comparatively to the 1995 version of it, because it's dark and it's bleak, and I think one of the most important elements and the reason that people are crying out for a sequel is because they gave the fan service that everyone wanted from the 1995 version, because that started off so well. That film, it had everything. It had like 2000 AD, the original comic book, that flicking through like covers of that, and then there was this epic James Earl Jones sort of intro to it, narrating it, and then it set up everything, and the city looked fantastic, and all the vehicles looked fantastic, and the disparity, like I said, between rich and poor was there, and it had everything going for it, and it was really exciting. And
Promised so much.
It promised so much, and then 16 minutes into the film is when it lost everyone because Dredd took his helmet off to reveal the money shot because he was the money. You know what I mean?
And and you know, it's you know, when you talking about the dystopian sort of like the way, you know, the gritty kind of Zack Snyder kind of way that the 2012 film was shot, and then the kind of slick way that the 95 version is shot, I think it's a real sign of the times, because you had, like, I'm sure it's around about the same year, you had Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever came out.
Right,
and we've gone from Tim Burton's really bleak sort of like gothic sort of Batman
to neon,
into this neon, you know, really shiny, super, you know, high production sort of comic book film. But then when you look at it, the 2012, that's when, like, you know, I think Batman Begins came around. Was it around about 2008?
I think it was, it was around that time when everything was dark and brooding.
That's it. Everything. We started looking at Frank Miller's kind of stuff. You know, like Sin City came out, and you know, everything was getting a bit more sort of low contrast, sort of like, you know, much darker, grittier, more sort of like real. Then I guess. Yeah, there was no room for levity, was there, back in that, you know, in that time. All the films were gritty, and all the films were, and I mean, it works. I mean, for the Carl Urban film, because it's not got massively bankable actors in it. Carl Urban's kind of a go-to guy. You know, he's not massively bankable in Hollywood, is he? You know, since The Boys now. I think since being in The Boys, he's become a much more sort of big of a household.
I can't get past the accent. I can't like, well, he's Australian, isn't he, Carl? Is he Carl? He's Australian?
He is.
Do you know what I mean? But like
but he's very Australian.
Yeah. But what the fuck is going on here, boys? Like, it's all like it's like he only ever watched Dick Van Dyke to learn that.
But why did he play as an Australian? He could have just played that character.
Like, Butcher could have been Australian. Yeah, but I think in the comics, I think Butcher's. I think he's a Londoner. Is he in the comics, Butcher? I think he is. But like, he's like, oh, you fucking cunts. You know what I mean? Everything's so stunted, and I'll never forgive him for that. But like, he's such a good go-to actor, because he's obviously, everyone, you know, we know him from Lord of the Rings, and then he's in the Star Trek films, and then The Boys as well, and he's in the Marvel universe. He's in the Thor.
But I get what you mean.
Films.
He's not that Stallone sort of.
But he's not like, and he, you know, and to find an actor that was able to let go of their ego and keep the mask on, because the whole thing, the whole thing about Dredd, even through the comics, I think he never takes his helmet off. I think there's comic book panels where he's showering in his helmet. I'm pretty sure that exists, and you know, to get an actor that doesn't have that, they can let go of that ego.
Yeah.
And be like, right, we're going to do this for the film. We're going to do this for the fans.
Yeah.
I think it was fantastic, and
I think that was the issue with the 95. I think I don't know if it was the director. I don't know if it was Stallone himself. Kind of like, well, we got Sylvester Stallone in this film. We're not having him wearing a helmet for the next 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to set because I don't think the helmet goes back on. I think once he loses it, I don't think even at the end.
It does. It goes back on at the end.
Right at the end.
Yeah, like right at the end, because he has the smoochy moment. You know, the obligatory smoochy moment. I knew you'd say it, because he's got that fucking catchphrase as well.
That's
his entire catchphrase is, I knew you'd say that.
With Judge Hershey as
like she kisses him. I knew you'd.
It's essentially the same character as Sandra Bullock in Demolition Man.
I mean, it's almost like, you know what I mean. It's almost pound for pound the same film now.
It is. Yeah, and I think that, and again, I think Demolition Man came out 2 years before, and personally, I think it's a more superior film. You know, Wesley Snipes is incredible in it.
Oh,
I don't know, we're not here to talk about Demolition Man, but you got, you know, Rob Schneider.
Yeah,
is a comedy sidekick.
Oh, and you know, it's trying to like just set up that plucky sidekick vibe. You know, he's just got out of prison. He gets dragged back into prison, and then he recognizes Judge Dredd on a prison transport, because Judge Dredd, if you haven't seen it, Judge Dredd gets wrongly convicted of a crime, and he recognizes him from an angle he's never seen him before.
That's how he does that, doesn't he?
He does that and goes, Dredd, like you've never seen him from that angle. Probably haven't even looked at him for that long to recognize him, and that's when it all goes tits up. You know, and
you think of that judicial system. Who is actually going to put the guy who arrested another guy next to each other on a prison transport?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not expecting like a stabbing.
One thing that I did notice is that, so basically, like I said, Judge Dredd is set up for a crime, right? And they're like, well, we've got all this evidence, right? We've got it's DNA evidence. We've got this video evidence. And Hershey goes, well, no, that's just grainy video. It could be anyone on
that's it,
right? But no one checked his alibi. No one was like, where were you?
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah.
And it would, because surely through his bike, you know what I mean, that they can track everywhere
You
in
think
the
he's probably
city.
judging someone.
He's probably judging someone, and they haven't gone at any point. Where were you
Yeah.
at the time of the crime? You know what I mean? Like, we've got your DNA on it, but stranger things have happened at sea.
Yeah, they did them on a grainy.
Yeah.
So everything in the future is really slick, except for they've still got really grainy CCTV.
That's
It's not much use as part of the CCTV. They get him on. I think that is just that DNA sort of thing.
Because only he can fire the gun, like. But
that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. But then. Yeah, like I said, there's not really any trial.
There's no trial.
And he doesn't seem to have really like much of a lawyer. On the defence side of things, she didn't call any witnesses.
No.
She didn't sort of like go into any timeline. She didn't call him to the stand. It was just, him literally screaming in court, "I am the law.
I didn't break the law. I am the law."
And that's not a defence.
No, that's not a defence. No, it's the last time I checked. That's not a defence. And I don't know if they did lawyering at judge school. Either, like,
you think you think they'd have a good understanding of, if they are judges, it's technically.
Yeah, why would they need a trial? And if they are judges, why would he have to go in front of like a tribunal? You know what I mean? Because surely there's somebody that would go, "No, you're judged."
That's a really good point.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So you've just murdered someone.
But you get a jury.
Yeah, you get a jury. You get of your peers.
It's convenient to the point.
One thing that both films does have is fantastic bad guys like. Rico, who is Judge Dredd's clone, they're like, he's not his clone; they are both clones.
That's it.
They're from the same DNA, so he's not a clone of Judge. So, but he's his brother. And when I remember when I was watching it when I was younger, I was thinking, aren't clones supposed to look alike?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Aren't they? We go into a Star Wars universe.
You'd expect some sort of.
Yeah, but there really is when you watch it now. They did the groundwork. They found someone that he looks so much like Stallone. Watching it, and he's fantastic. Like some of his dialogue, and it's as hammy as it is.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like and he goes like, "You want fear? I'm the fear."
Yeah,
and the way he delivers it.
Yeah.
You want a new beginning? I am the new beginning. It's fucking brilliant the way he delivers it.
Was that Amanda Sante, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, really good actor.
Yeah, fantastic actor. I mean, there's some great actors in it, but
there's Rob Schneider.
And Rob Schneider, who's not a great actor, not known for his acting, but it's a rare Rob Schneider role that isn't culturally insensitive.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
He's just playing a dude.
That's
it.
Who thought Deuce Bigalow would be like one of these MAGA?
Oh, Deuce. I'm so disappointed in you.
But again, there's even some good dialogue off Rob Schneider. Like when I think Judge Dredd's taking a uniform and he goes, "Oh, we don't have time for this."
Yeah. Like he genuinely thinks he's getting nasty with someone.
And he says, and he sort of like he does his voice at one point. He's Mr. I am the law.
Yeah, it's but yeah, so Rico's a fantastic bad guy in it. But comparing him to the bad gal or guy in 2012, Lena Headey as
Mama.
Mama.
Yeah.
Oh. Like, she's wonderful. Like, Lena Headey's a fantastic actor anyway.
I don't know, I've never seen her anything up until that point.
Have you not?
Is it Olivia Thirlby? The one who plays...
who plays Anderson. Yeah, I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen her in anything either.
Both great actresses.
She's wonderful. But, I mean, Lena Headey is... most famously at the moment is Cersei Lannister, Game of Thrones.
Oh, right, okay.
Which she's utterly wonderful. No one plays bad like Lena Headey. She's fantastic. She was in a series years ago called Band of Gold. Which I think was a BBC. I think she was a prostitute in that.
She's British. She's a British actress.
Yeah, she's a British actress. Yeah, and she's an ex-prostitute in Dredd, but she's like this sort of gangland boss that runs this drug empire. And one of the fantastic things about it is the way that they use the effects of the drug to such good effect. The slow mo, you know what I mean? Because it makes you think, oh, I'll go on that. Doesn't it? You know what I mean? I want to have a go. But sometimes I think, why would I want something that slowed life down for me? Like sometimes, why would I? No, hang on, this is taking far too long.
You want to make sure you slow down the good moments.
Yeah, exactly. But like a Hamlet cigar in a garden with Russ Abbott.
But one amazing idea though, like a drug is delivered through an inhaler, which I think again it was a similar sort of plot thing in Minority Report. They used an inhaler in that this kind of like this pod thing. But yeah, to use an actual like a rescue inhaler, and then that it slows everything to like a hundredth of
But they use
hundredth of a time.
they use it to such amazing effect with some of the like when they decide to off some guys, and they're going to throw them down this huge sort of cavernous ways because these buildings are like hundreds and hundreds of stories high, and then they're like bye, but they give them a go first, so time slows down for them.
Skin in them.
Yeah, and then they drop them. And then the drop scene is like, but it's all sparkly, and because they're so heightened.
That's it.
And then, like, what the impact? They get the impact sort of from underneath as well. So it's the whole.
And that was my only sort of issue. There's I personally think Dredd is a perfect film. It's not. It may not be for everybody. It's not. It's not going to be. It's not going to win any Academy Awards. Like There Will Be Blood or something like that. You're not going to have Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis is the next Dredd, but it's consistent all the way through. There's one shot in it that really annoys me. It's just as Dredd is pushing Mama off the balcony.
Right.
You see a great shot of her falling at full speed with the glass,
right.
but there's a shot where it's almost like an old green screen, and it just looks a little bit out of focus and a little bit kind of pixelated. I don't know what it is, but there's that one shot I just think, it's every time I watch it, it stands out.
Do you know what? It probably just came down to time constraints. I watch a lot of Corridor Crew. Do you watch Corridor Crew?
No.
They're like visual effects artists on YouTube. And like the biggest constraint in Hollywood at the moment, the reason that so many huge budget films have got such seemingly poor CGI is just the time constraints because they're not paid enough, and they're like, we need this done in a week. Do you know what I mean? So they literally they have to go down to the wire. And with a film with that sort of budget on it, 30 to 45 million. I mean, for a film, you could barely shoot a porn in a skip for 30 to 45 million. You know what I mean?
I've seen it across a skip higher nowadays.
It's ridiculous. No, like seriously, you couldn't. But apparently, according to my notes, Dredd only took 41.5 million in the box office.
So when you add like all of the marketing costs on top of that, it probably didn't even break even.
So the reason it's not getting a sequel it's because it didn't make any money, and it's fantastic as it is, because it is a wonderful film. I agree, like from start to finish, it's like it moves along really nicely. It goes through the pacing's wonderful in it, and it has a sense of danger and a sense of urgency in it. When it gets split up, and Anderson's like really tested by the guy she's got in handcuffs, and he's being super aggressively, like sexually inappropriate with her. You know what I mean? But she gets in his head because she's psychic, and
I that's one of my favourite scenes when she actually flips it and realizes actually you're not the one who's in control.
You're not.
You might think you are.
Yeah, you might think you're a big man now.
When you see him on his knees and he's wetting himself because she's obviously
she's tickled his brain in the wrong.
She's got all the information out. She knows how to get up there, how to act, to get up to Mama, how to open the security lock, things like that. Again, it's that sort of that power, that power shift. Again, going back to Anderson as well. One thing I do love about, you watch again like the 1995 version of Judge Dredd. It feels like Judge Dredd's adventure, and then at the end of it, he has almost this kind of like celebration. He's riding off on his lawmaster, and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Whereas Dredd, I found kind of like it's like another day at the office for him. He never forgets that he's still assessing Anderson on her first day. And
but she thinks she's fucked it, doesn't she? At the end, because she loses her primary weapon, and she thinks she's fucked it. But what's wonderful about it is that although like there isn't any unnecessary character development, like Sylvester Stallone's has an arc.
That's right.
Where at the beginning he's like, very stern.
I
am. Stands in the middle of a conflict zone, hand on hips, in a cat suit and a codpiece. Just like 2 steps away. It's 2 adornments away from the Demolition Man.
It's pretty much identical.
Identical.
Apart from the big eagle, the codpiece, which I think I must have blocked out.
It's ridiculous, the codpiece.
and this humongous eagle sort of shoulder pad, which I got to in respect though, that is exactly how he looked in the comic book.
Yeah.
That eagle shoulder pad was always there. But apart from that, it is the identical sort of uniform that they wear in the future in Demolition Man. and navy blue skin tight jodhpuri sort of boot wearing.
And they kind of set him up in the same. It's the same like you know, it's the old grizzled trope where it's like Detective John Kimball from Kindergarten Cop, you know, where he's untouchable, he's rugged, he's the baddest motherfucker on the force. And then over the course of the film, he really softens, and I know it. By the end of it, he's kissing Judge Hershey, the Hershey kiss. That's an American candy, apparently.
Oh, was it Hershey kiss?
Yeah.
Nice.
And he's like, and he's got a smug grin, and everyone's cheering. Right at the end of it, he's driving off, and everyone's cheering, and I'm thinking, what are they cheering at? Like, nobody really knows what's gone on.
No one's actually watched this adventure with us.
I know that somebody, one of the newbies at the end says that information got leaked, you know, or they broadcast it. But like, why are they having this hero moment for him? Because he's just done one thing, really. I remember when that was being filmed, when the 1995 one was being filmed, because if you grew up a metalhead in the 80s and 90s, Judge Dredd was kind of in your consciousness anyway. 2000 AD was big anyway. All my mates were into 2000 AD. Dredd and Slain and Rogue Soldier and all that, you know what I mean? All that cool stuff. But then Anthrax did I Am the Law about Judge Dredd. You don't know that song?
No,
great tune. I am the law. You won't fuck around no more because I am the law. Yeah, it's a great.
No, I don't know that.
Great Anthrax tune. Yeah, thrash tune.
I'm sure it's Spotify after this now.
Yeah, but it was it was in like popular consciousness, and I remember being really excited that they were making a Judge Dredd film. But every punk that I knew in Bristol was in that film. Was it because the extras that they did? Because most of it was filmed in the UK. So basically, if they would have done it on Gyro Day, because they would have had to go to the job centre to sign on with all the old punks back then. So if they would have filmed it on a Wednesday or whatever, no one would have been able to go. But every punk, like every single punk that I knew, was in a crowd scene in Judge Dredd, because that's all they wanted. They wanted the freaks and the weirdos, and like, looking at it now, like the amount of queer people in the background. I was watching it, I was like, it's a person in makeup. You know what I mean? It's a male presenting person in makeup. In 1995, they would have thought that was really weird. Like, you know what I mean? Like now, it wouldn't be so weird. Like I'd be in Bridget Jones now. You know what I mean? I could be in the background of Bridget Jones, and they'd be just like, oh yeah, it's just a person. Yeah, but everywhere, and like, it was just I always remember it. Like they were saying, like, instead of drinking cider in the park, they were all off to being Judge Dredd.
Just Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
What an unusual thing.
I know, it's weird, but they needed the, you know. There's money to be made in there and like extras and all that, and they did that, like, you know, they all did that.
I don't really hear much about anything to do with 2018 now. I don't know if it's still going. I don't know if the times have passed. But I remember like in the early 90s, well, all the way through the 90s, if you were British, it was the go-to sort of comic book. Do you remember we met Simon Bisley? In Comic-Con.
That man was having a bad fucking day. Like that was one of the most disappointing days of my life. I'm not going to look like Simon Bisley was iconic. He's an iconic comic book
artist,
drawer. I was going to say then, like iconic, and he's done like some of the greatest. You know, his work on Slain was absolutely out of this world. Like, you know what I mean, in the way that he drew and portrayed sort of fantasy characters was wonderful. But he also had a link to Slayer. He did a really famous Slayer poster.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, which had a big demon in it, and then the members of the band at the bottom. And I remember when we went to Cardiff that day, and I was like, Simon Bisley's going to be there. I'm hoping that he's got Slayer.
We made a beeline, didn't it?
Yeah, we went there and we made a beeline for Simon Bisley, and he was tucked away like right upstairs or something, right in the back. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be amazing. He's going to have prints to sell, and he's going to be signing them, and it's going to be brilliant. Never meet your fucking heroes, like never. He
wasn't having life at that day. I just remember he asked, he had this really incredible sketch of Batman, if you remember.
Yeah,
he did a piece on Batman. He said, "How much do you think I should sell that for?"
Yeah. Would you buy this?
I know this is your bread and butter, Simon. I have no idea.
Yeah, like I don't like, and I was so bitterly disappointed that he was like, he either like, did he have a hangover? Was he on a come down, or did he realise that, you know, this little desk in a Cardiff Comic Con was the accumulated efforts of all his life?
That was his moment.
And mate, I was so utterly disappointed. I was genuinely gutted, like, you know. It properly pissed on my chips.
Because I'm assuming, because Bisley's not I don't know it to be a common name, But I am assuming that that's where the inspiration for Tim Bisley's name came from Spaced.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Potentially.
So Simon Pegg's character was Tim Bisley, and he's a comic book artist.
Oh, is it? I always pronounce it Beasley. So is it Bisley?
Bisley, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
We always said Simon Beasley.
Oh, maybe it is Beasley.
So, I don't know. I ain't got a clue, man.
Yeah, maybe I just plucked a comment.
Maybe I just made
an
association. Yeah, maybe I just made a link that didn't exist at all. Like, so I mean, going back to the films, we've talked about the bad guys and the similarities, or not similarities between the films. But what rewatching the 1995 film made me realise about the 2012 film is sort of how much is missing from it in terms of sort of 2000 AD like lore and things like that. Like the Sylvester Stallone film gave us like a fully practical ABC warrior, like giant robot. It looked incredible, was puppeted fantastically, and none of that was present in the Carl Urban film, and obviously budgetary constraints as well.
And again, I think that for the 2012 version, they've gone for a practical design. If you look at the Lawmaster, the bike, the Lawmaster in the 1995 version, even though it flew, which I don't remember the Lawmaster flying in the 2000 AD comics. Maybe they did. Answers in the postcard. Maybe it did. But the actual design of it, the huge tires, the ridiculous front, all the adornments with the eagles, things like that. It was all there. Essentially, in the 2012 version, it was just a motorbike with a big fairing on it.
Yeah,
and it was practical. It was great, but it wasn't the Lawmaster.
I think it's all a case of balance, because we were talking about like a dark and gritty element of things, but there's no balance between it. Whereas like the 1995 film, which is pure ostentatious, like the gold on the eagle never got tarnished, and it was massive and impractical. And then for the 2012 version, everything got shrunk down, and it was just like a little thing, and and it was all very tactical and all very practical, and I think it sort of loses a bit of itself. I always say this about films, especially like with like Batman films, like with the Christopher Nolan stuff, and how he wants to keep everything grounded, and he wants to and like I want my Batman to be able to jump 12 foot into the air for no apparent reason other than the fact that he's supposed to be a really strong bloke, this good at gymnastics. So who do you think, like, if you had to recast the 1995 Judge Dredd now? I don't know how up you are on like current actors, but who would you want to put in his Dredd?
But what I was thinking was, I did actually sort of, I did have a think about this, and I'm not up on current actors, but I was thinking of who I'd like to see director.
Right.
And I'd love to see someone like Edgar Wright direct Judge Dredd.
Oh, Edgar Wright, World's End, Baby Driver. Yeah. I think he's got enough, again, if you look at the old episodes of Spaced, he's got enough knowledge about, sort of British pop culture. I've got no doubt that he's got enough knowledge about 2018. Undoubtedly.
Again, if you look at Spaced, if you look at the artwork in Spaced that Tim draws, it's got that British, that's like almost Dark Horse Comics kind of, and is Dark Horse Comics British? I don't know.
I don't know.
It was a bit more underground.
I don't know.
But it's got that sort of like, he's got that pop sort of comic book knowledge, and I think you get that satirical element in there as well. Yeah,
he's very like. He directs sort of quick thinking and quick action really well, and he's because he's Hot Fuzz as well, is he?
Hot Fuzz
and
Shaun of the Dead. He's done another film recently. Oh, he's got a new film coming out. I can't remember what it is. I'd have to have a little look. But and again, World's End, was a real change in tone compared to Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you thought about Hot Fuzz was kind of. It felt like a follow-up to Shaun of the Dead. Yeah. There had lots of callbacks, things like that. But The World's End kind of stood out on its own as like, oh wow, this is a lot darker. Yeah. Really sci-fi heavy. There's actually got choreographed fight scenes, things like that. Whereas Shaun of the Dead, you think they couldn't even hit with a cricket bat on time. So and again, if you look at, I don't know if you've seen Baby Driver. Yeah. Again, it's a real sort of like it's quite emotive, and I just got this feeling like with his background, Edgar Wright would be a really good sort of like director, writer for a remake of Judge Dredd.
And I think they're both like fantastic films in their own right. Is hammy as the 1995 one is. some of the elements of it, like there were people in it that clearly, like in production, that clearly knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah.
You know, they were
The
clearly
set design
into the
was
source
incredible.
material, and you can see it. Like obviously, the mega cities existed a long time before the film. You know what I mean, in the comics and stuff like that. But when you go off and you look at other films, like you know, The Fifth Element, like what Luc Besson did in The Fifth Element, with the, you know what I mean, it's effectively a mega city. It's the same sort of thing. So kind of the same story in the sense that you know humanity's just crammed into these.
I say so. We'd rather build it out than build up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even you get into Star Wars then, and when they in the newer films when they go to Coruscant, and it's a city, you know what I mean, and it's all densely populated. And that visually is so similar. Totally random question about both films. If each film was an animal, what animal would each film be? I've put too much thought into some of these, I think.
That's a really good question. I'd say like 95 to me is like a peacock. Looks fantastic.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to fly.
Right, yeah.
You know, it looks great,
Yeah.
but again, there's really good elements to it. Sadly, I think the thing that lets it down is Judge Dredd. The rest of the film is great, I think, but I think the core element of being of Stallone's Dredd gets a little bit lost. But the rest of it is the design is great. The it looks better than it actually is.
I thought. See, I was down on a similar vein. I thought like a milk snake. Do you know like the? Because you got a corn snake in it.
Corn snake.
So you know what the red on black venom black, red on yellow killer fella. So it's the one that isn't venomous, right? So it looks like. So it's promising. It's all Billy Big Balls. In the world, like I'm hard as fuck. I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like a hoverfly.
Yeah.
I look like a bee, but I'm not going to sting you.
Yeah. I'm venomous. You're not, mate. You can't back it up at all, can you? You know what I mean? You can't back this up at all.
Even animals know it's not.
Yeah.
Not
Go. It's like that. And like the 2012 one, I think it's just pure honey badger. It's just if it was going to be because it's just aggressive and sort of tenacious. From the get-go, the 2012 film,
not cuddly at all, is it?
No, there's nothing cuddly about it. There's nothing, and it's just like it's going to kick your ass whether you like it or not. You know what I mean? Under all circumstances, you're getting your ass kicked.
And I think that's what I love about it. I think that's the actual core of the story, the performances.
Yeah.
As a film, it works great. And again, 2012. It's not necessarily a Judge Dredd.
Yeah, I mean, it could be any grid. You know what I mean? It could be Jason Statham getting off work, getting trapped in a.
Please not.
No, it's not. Right, I've got to go out this fucking building. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. What new grizzled character is he playing this week?
Oh, he's got a new film out, and he's got The Working Man. I think it's Is that it?
Yeah,
The Working
The
Man.
Amateur.
No, there's a new one called The Working Man.
Oh, I think there's a new film called The Amateur out as well. He might be in that as well.
There's a drug dealer at the top.
So he's the transporter. He's the amateur. But he's also the mechanic as well.
He's also what's the high voltage one? He does.
I think that's Cranked.
Crank.
Yeah,
Crank. Yeah. You imagine him as Dredd in the helmet and all that. Imagine like recasting it. You know what I mean? Right. So
funny. What
going in this building there? I mean,
well, when you mentioned about like the idea of like what because I struggle with British actors nowadays. I don't know what. But I thought Jason Statham. I thought that would be terrible.
It would be the worst film.
That would be absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Especially if he does the American accent.
Yeah. No, but he doesn't do it then. He can't do it. He tries.
No.
He tries, doesn't he? He's like, I'm from America. I can't do it. I'm slipping back into London. Like, I'm an Australian. He's all over the crikey. Crikey. So generally, like, we're just going to score it, basically. Just going to do a bit of scoring. So we'll start with the 2012 film. So just on a 1 to 10. So what would you score the acting in general?
Oh, I'd give it probably about a 8.5, 9. A good 8, a good strong 8, possibly shading a 9.
Because I mean, I think for all the because Karl Urban, like, he doesn't do a great deal of acting.
No.
Doesn't, like, do you know what I mean?
No.
He's very. I'm doing Jason Statham again. I'm going constantly into Jason Statham. That's what I'm doing. But he's you know what I mean?
But he doesn't have to, and that's the thing. He stays in that character.
But what helps is that the actors around him.
Yeah.
Like Anderson's fantastic, and Mama's fucking like she's brilliant. Do you know what I mean? She's so. I know we've gone over bad guys, but she is so far from wholesome.
Yeah.
You know, she's so corrupted and so evil. It's fucking absolutely wonderful. I'd love to see like an origin film.
You can actually see like why her gang obey her. You can see why she's in charge.
Terrifying.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, so I agree. I think
she's ruthless.
Yeah.
You know, she uses horrific violence to to sort of like to lay down the law. You know, when she says about skin and throw him over the side.
Yeah.
So cold.
Given,
yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, really convincing as a.
And Donald Gleason's in it as well. So do you know Donald Gleason?
Yeah.
So
from, he was in
Liam Gleason's son. No, what's his dad's name? He was in Bruges, and he was in the.
Yeah, he was in lots of stuff.
Yeah. Donald Gleason. Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah, he was in Braveheart.
Yeah. Oh, he was it. Yeah.
Irish actor playing the Scottish guy.
He was Hamish, was it?
That's right. Yeah, we didn't get dressed up for nothing.
Yeah, I could crush you like a worm. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I could crush you like a worm. I didn't realise that was him. But anyway, so Donald Gleason's in it. Who obviously he went on to do Star Wars, and he's in the beautiful film About Time. Have you seen About Time?
I haven't seen it. He was in a really interesting Black Mirror as well.
Was he? I've never seen any Black Mirror.
Yeah, he was. He played as like mail order kind of robot husband. I think it was. If I remember the episode correct. Really good actor.
Yeah. So it's just so that's right. So cool. That was and then on a 1 to 10 from 1995, what would you give the acting?
6, and that includes Max von Sydow, I think.
I mean, because Max von Sydow, like, you know, like it is Ming the Merciless, like it's the guy, like, you know, obviously you said The Exorcist,
Shutter Island,
yeah, and then the same character in Minority Report, as you said earlier, and then like it's basically it's just subpar acting like the whole time, isn't it? You know, it's not apart from Rico, who like really hams it up, but he's fucking fantastic.
But I wonder, like, but is he doing that because he has to, in a sense of like, you know, he doesn't really have anybody who have that dialogue off with.
No, so he has to do it himself. Yeah.
And again, it's sad to see Sylvester Stallone, like, you know, he's a really good actor. You know, he has, you know, if you look at the final scene of First Blood, when he's in the in the store, when he's, you know, crying and you know he's in a real mess, you know, he can act. But
he steps away from that though, didn't he? Because he's like, that's why people think that he's a bit of a, you know, all people have always thought he's a dullard, and because his mouth goes off to the side a little bit when he talks, and because of what he did in the 80s, people forget.
Well, he wrote
how prolific, and like Rocky, he was just apparently he's still got the turtles from Rocky. They're still alive.
I know the dog was his.
Yeah,
Bubkiss.
Yeah, the turtles are still alive from Rocky. So, but yeah, he wrote that and directed it, and he
I think he won an Academy Award.
Yeah,
like, you know,
like early on, and then but people always think he's like.
Yeah, and I think he went through. I mean, even like, but it wasn't a great vehicle for him, was it?
No.
And I think that's the thing. I think it felt like a bit of an ego fest.
Yeah.
Judge Dredd. It felt like an ego fest for Sylvester Stallone. And when you've got that, it doesn't work. I don't think it works.
Like the entire Mission Impossible franchise for Tom Cruise. It's just a vessel for ego.
Actually, first
Mission Impossible,
Mission Impossible was actually really good. And then it became, you know, Tom Cruise wants to jump out of a plane.
Yeah.
So we're going to do Mission Impossible 7.
Tom thinks he's superhuman. Let's make him superhuman. Right. So again,
we're going to go for 6. I think
6.
For
good.
Acting.
Yeah, I agree. So dialogue in both films, 1 to 10. So it's not. Neither are really dialogue heavy films, are they? So what would you give 2012's Dredd for?
Oh, I'd probably say about an 8. What's said needs to be said. You know,
Yeah.
his monologue. I don't know if you'd call it a monologue, but when he's over the intercom, and you know he says, you know, I am the law, you know, judgment time. It is actually terrifying.
Oh yeah, for anyone in that building. Because,
you know, it's and he has a few good lines. You know, when she says about the helmet's going to block my psychic powers, and he goes, I think a bullet's going to block them more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's a few great lines that he gives. Doesn't change his character. And again, when he's you know, she says about she's like 90% convinced that this perp is the guy, and he says, you know, she'll save me a lot of paperwork if you just confess.
Yeah.
You know? So there are some great lines in it. You know, but there's no really big dialogue that I remember. There's one where I think he's facing off against the corrupt judges, and one of the judges says, "Oh, it's a meat grinder. People go in one way, meat comes out the other end." I thought that's quite a bleak sort of view of it. So yeah, I'd probably give it a good 8 for dialogue.
There we are. And then what, like 4 for the 1995
and that's only from Andersante's.
Yeah. 4 for his. It's fantastic. And then sets and locations. So, I mean, because they're both brilliant.
Yeah, I would actually probably say for the 1995 version a 9.
Yeah.
Again, for 2012 version, it does what it needs to do. I'd probably give that about a 9 as well.
Yeah, so I mean, it does exactly what it says on the tin, doesn't it? It's lovely.
But I know I'd actually mark the 2012 version down maybe to an 8 because it isn't the Judge Dredd lore like you touched on earlier.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as oppressive. Like Mega City 1 in the 1995 film feels even with all its bright colours and it's it feels oppressive. It feels like it's
and you see the scorched earth as well.
Yeah, and you see of course
Which is great. You meet is it the Angel family?
Oh, we haven't even talked about the Angel family. Like the makeup on Mean Machine.
That's right. That's right.
Out of this world. Well, what struck me is one thing that just before we finish up was one thing that struck me is that there's like 20 million people or something living in a space, or 60 million people living in a space that's only designed for 20 million people. Right? Yeah. So it's a mega city, right? But then there's this one judge who's this, but he surely Dredd can't do the entire city. There must be badass judges at a different, like no one ever tells a story about, like over in section 7-4B, whereas Judge Frank, he's been doing it for years, but nobody ever tells Judge Frank's story. You know what I mean? Because he's not as cool as Dredd.
Or even the average judges.
Yeah.
Judge John, who
Judge John,
who just goes along and claps cars or something like that, or
Judge Statham.
That's it.
Right, I am the law.
Or just goes up and that's a fine for dog shitting on the part of pavement or something like that. Because these crimes have got to still happen as well.
They do.
They can't all be crime bosses. They can't all be massively corrupt. Sort of like high. There's got to be some paperwork involved. There's got to be a judge who shows up with his helmet, but he just does the admin.
Yeah.
Just sits in the office.
Got to wear the eagle thing every day. Like, Christ, I'm boiling.
Yeah.
There's no aircon in this office. You know what I mean?
Just going through the
Judge Karen going for a Rolodex.
I say through the fixed penalty.
Anyway, brilliant. That's been it. That's been our little our chat about Dredd 2012 and Judge Dredd 1995. Thanks, mate, for coming in. Appreciate it. This has been another Malcast. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notification thing. Apparently, that's what people say. And we'll see you again fairly soon for another Malcast. All the best.